Hello everybody. In this unit we've been talking about measures of center and variability as it relates to data that's been collected. Today we're going to talk about the shape of distributions and how a dot plot, a histogram, or a line graph can tell us about its measure of center and variability. I'm just going to give you the definitions of 4 different types of shapes for the distributions, and then tomorrow in class we'll work on some of these. So the first one is a cluster. As you can see, here's a dot plot, and all the data is close together, so we're going to call that a cluster. A peak is kind of similar to a cluster, except the most important part of a peak is that there is a high point here at like 6.5, and the points to the either side, like 6 and 7, have lower amounts of data. Okay, so that's a peak. So the cluster here, you could technically say it has 2 peaks while it's also in a cluster. In this peak one, the data is pretty clustered, but we're more focused on the peak here at 6.5. And in this picture we have a gap, so it's pretty obvious. There's some data here at 5, 5.5, and 6, and again at 8, 8.5, and 9. However, right in the middle there is no data, so we call that a gap. And then we have symmetry. Symmetry is symmetrical. It means it's basically a mirror image of itself. So if you had a mirror right here, you could see that it's the same on this side as it is on this side. Now, for data to be symmetrical, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're looking for the basic shape to remain the same on both sides. Okay, so what does this tell us about measures of center and variability? Well, if you look at the gap, for instance, you can see there's a lot of data that are on each of the sides, so the mean is probably going to be around 7, but it's probably not a very good description of the data. To say that there's a mean of 7 doesn't really tell us a lot about the data, because when you think there's a mean at 7 or an average of 7, you expect the data to be around 7. So you probably wouldn't want to use the mean as a description here. Again, the median isn't going to be a great description. The mode is probably not going to be a great description. You're probably going to want to talk more about range or interquartile range or mean absolute deviation. In the case of symmetry here, the average, the mode, the median, they're all going to be 6, so they're all going to be the same number, or they're all going to be close together in this type of situation. And so you can use the average, the mean, the median, the mode as a good description of what's going on in the data. When you were looking at a cluster, again, a cluster is going to help us describe the data well with a mean or a median, maybe a mode, but not necessarily a mode, but yeah, because all the data is kind of in the same area. And then a peak, the mode is going to be helpful in describing that, and maybe the average, maybe the median, but the mode is really helpful when talking about a peak. Okay? And so tomorrow in class we will talk some more about this. Thanks for watching.